Mary had a little lamb.
The fault. We believe that all men are created equal.
To the magnificent mosaic that is America.
From radio beacon to radio beacon. I have a dream today. Change has come to America.
Believe me, help is on the way.
Knock, knock. Who's there?
It's a figment of your imagination.
Randi Rhodes Show. Turn up your mind.
Welcome to the second Republican debate of the 2024 primary, live from the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library in Simi Valley, California.
Excuse me. Thank you for speaking while I'm interrupting. While I'm speaking.
No, you said
if I may finish. If I may finish.
You can't be on both sides.
Gentlemen, you'll have your turn.
One of the challenges we should have
focus on the issues that matter?
Transgenderism, especially in kids, is a mental health disorder.
Black families survived slavery. We survived poll taxes and literacy tests. We survived discrimination being woven into the laws of our country. What was hard to survive was Johnson's Great Society.
If the government shuts down, should voters blame populist Republicans?
Voters should blame everybody who's in Washington, D.C.
Where's Joe Biden? He's completely missing in action from leadership.
When you have the President of the United States sleeping with a member of the teachers union, there is no chance that you could take the stranglehold away from the teachers union every day.
Chris, you mentioned the president's situation.
No, don't.
My wife
no.
isn't a member of the teachers union, but I got to admit, I've been sleeping with a teacher for 38 years.
Did it.
The reality is just because Putin is Putin's an evil dictator does not mean that Ukraine is good. This is a country that has banned 11 opposition parties.
A win
that has
for
actually,
Russia is a
that
win
is not
for
true.
China.
We're driving
a win
Russia.
For Russia
excuse
is
me.
a win for China.
Excuse me. And if you have
but
a chance,
I forgot you like China.
Joe Biden should not be on the picket line. He should be on the southern border, working to close our southern border.
Look, I do disagree with something Tim Scott just said. Joe Biden doesn't belong on a picket line. He belongs on the unemployment line.
I have a radical idea for the Republican Party. We need to win elections. And part of how we win elections is reaching the next generation of young Americans where they are. So when I get into office, I've been very clear. Kids under the age of 16 should not be using addictive social media.
This is infuriating because TikTok is one of the most dangerous social media apps that we could have. And what you've got, I honestly, every time I hear you, I feel a little bit dumber.
Okay, so they all won their participation trophy yesterday. I guess that's the best they're going to do. Does anybody think that they saw the future GOP presidential nominee on that stage last night? Or does anybody think that they saw a vice president? Does anybody think they saw a president of the United States? No, nobody thinks that. I mean, it was just like, but Nikki Haley, okay, she is, a little bit better at this than most of the people on that stage. Literally ripping apart. I mean, I guess they all thought, they came and they thought that Beavis over there, I don't know what's going on with Vivek Ramaswamy's hair-doozy over there, but it's very Beavis. I don't understand it. I'm not sure what the Pompadourian thing is, but he's bringing it back, baby. Bringing it back single-handedly. It's very weird. But, that last night, it was bizarre. They talked over each other. There was they lost control. Stuart Varney and Dana Perino. They fancy themselves as anchors or hosts or debate moderators. I don't know what they were thinking. The lady from Univision was, elbowed out by those two anyway. I mean, she barely got a chance to ask them anything because everything she wanted to ask them about had to do with DACA, had to do with Dreamers, had to do with, and they literally said in front of the Univision anchor, I think her name is Ileana or I don't know. I don't watch Univision, but she was asking them, hard questions about immigration and like, how are you going to deport, 11 million people while they were standing in the Ronald Reagan Library, which was very weird because did they forget that Ronald Reagan actually gave amnesty to 3 million illegals? Do they forget where they're standing? I mean, it was such a weird thing to listen to them root for Russia in the Ronald Reagan Library. Ronald Reagan literally tore Russia apart, brought it to its knees, and they're now advocating for Russia to win against a democracy in the middle of Europe, Ukraine. I mean, it was really, it's so misplaced, and it's so stunning, and it's so weird. And then I'm watching the addition of the Univision anchor into the Fox Business hosts, and I'm thinking, somebody did not think this through, okay? Somebody just really, really has no earthly idea, like, what they programmed or what. And so Varney lost control, Dana Perino they lost control so early, that this whole thing just became a massive competition.
The next question is for Governor DeSantis.
If we want to get things done, here's how we get it done in Washington. We must find a way.
Can we please respect the time?
We can get it done.
Governor DeSantis, you haven't spoken. Please.
The people in Washington.
And it kept repeating over and over and over and over and over and over. I mean, nobody got. And then when they did open a mouth and they did actually, I mean, some of their arguments were just so demonstrably easily Googled and debunked in real time. It was very bizarre. And again, I think that they forgot whose library they were at. I mean, it was really creepy listening to them advocate for Russia to overcome Ukraine. And interesting to hear them say, I swear, one of them said, it doesn't matter which one, that they would shoot immigrants at the border. DeSantis literally I heard the word militarize the border. He is literally rehashing this authoritarian fantasy, this video game that I think Donald Trump has in his head about having a militarized border. And, you know, forget about Mexican trade. Forget about all the auto parts that come into this country every single day from Mexico, where the Republicans actually put factories. Okay, forget it. But, you know, they're talking about militarizing the border. Fentanyl, the word fentanyl. I heard fentanyl. I heard it over and over and over again. And I will say, you know, the Univision anchor tried to point out, I guess, to Ron death sentence. And he's really into the death sentence. I mean, like super into capital punishment at the border for anybody he thinks is a fentanyl smuggler. But she pointed out to him that 57%, just like I keep on telling you, 57% of all the people who bring fentanyl into this country are Americans. They're Americans coming through the legal ports of entry. Because if you were a drug dealer, just think it through, everybody. Stop thinking like a Republican and think it through. You had an illegal product that you were trying to smuggle into the United States. You're giving it to a Honduran mother? You're giving it to a Venezuelan family who has to pass through the Darien Gap in Panama, between Panama and Colombia, and they die in that woodsy, foresty thing? Or you're giving it to a truck driver who brings in car parts or tomatoes or foodstuffs from Mexico every day. That's his route. Do you know what I'm saying? I mean, like, how stupid do you have to be to think that fentanyl is being smuggled in by, you know, unaccompanied minors or pregnant women? It's so sad. It's so sick. It's so twisted. And she tried to explain this to DeSantis, who just totally ignored and talked right past her. Just talked right past her facts. I mean, this is what they did. They just blocked it all out and just came with their talking points and just they rehearsed those, and that's what you were going to get. No matter what they were confronted with, it was just so bogus. The whole thing. The only highlight of the thing was, Nikki Haley just literally having a meltdown, telling Vivek Ramaswamy that he is a China sympathizer. And you know what was crazy? She's telling him that, he's saying he bought advertising. He bought a lot of advertising on TikTok, right? And his whole deal is, well, you have to go where the new generation of voters are. What, 13-year-old girls are going to vote? I don't know. But right after she screamed and yelled at him about how dangerous and awful TikTok is and how he loves China and he had a business there and blah, 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 they cut to commercial. And guess what the commercial was for? TikTok. It was like, TikTok sparks good. And it was like some grandpa old man that people had found on TikTok and gave him $5,000 in a GoFundMe on TikTok. Don't have time to listen to the live show? Want to hear more on your schedule? Go to randyrhodes.com and buy a stinking podcast.